We are now in Genesis chapter 11. A lot has happened between Genesis 10:32 and Genesis 11 verse 1. Now, several hundred years must have passed, 200 years probably, and from the 6, we have a doubling of the population every 30 years or so. So that leaves us with quite a few people after 200 years. And so we're going to read the verses in here and see what we can get out of it. And it isn't good. You think that after a major flood that destroyed the whole earth, mankind would have learned something. But nope, they didn't. Let's read. Genesis 11, verse 1. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. Well, that makes sense because everybody spoke the same language that came out of the ark, right? And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, again, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And verse 5 says, And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men built. Whew. This chapter continues where chapter 9 ended. It starts off that the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. In Hebrew, which was the original language here, it says literally that the earth was of one lip and one set of words. They all spoke the same language as all the pre-flood people did, which I believe to have been some form of Hebrew or similar Semitic language. This would make sense as primitive records were passed on through Noah and Shem, and it was highly unlikely that either of them would have participated in the rebellion and judgment that would occur later on. Now back in Genesis 9 verse 1, God said to Noah and his sons, Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. I'm certain this command was passed down to at least their great-great-grandchildren. It was a command to be obeyed. He said, Be fruitful, be filling the earth, be multiplying. That's a command, isn't it? Then in verses 2 to 4 of chapter 11, we read these phrases. They journeyed, they found, they dwelt there, they said one to another, and they had building materials. And they said, Let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad from the face of the whole earth. What is that saying? We don't want to be scattered. We want to stay here in one place. But what did God order? Oh, see, the first disobedience already. Now, who was they? They said. They were almost the people from Noah's sons. They were almost all the people from Noah's sons, led by none other than the mighty tyrant in the face of the Lord, the mighty hunter. You know who that is? Nimrod. We encounter him later in Genesis 10, 9 to 10. That's Nimrod. None other than Nimrod led them to do this. They all ended up in Shinar and decided to stay and live there. In verses 3 and 4, a common expression in Hebrew was used. That was go to, indicating a council reaching a decision. The first decision apparently was to develop brick and mortar, to develop a brick and mortar making industry, to enable the planning and development of strong permanent buildings. In other words, they were ready to build a big city, a metropolis. The second decision was to build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. Let us make us a name. Interesting. A firm decision was made to stay and dwell in a strong capital city with a great and colossal central tower symbolizing its unity and focusing the culture of the population. It's like the Eiffel Tower, which is centered in Paris, and Paris sprawls around it. It symbolizes Paris. This tower would symbolize this civilization. No doubt, the tower was also meant to draw religious fervor away from God and to astrology and to the host of heaven, the fallen angels who fell with Satan. Why do I say this? Well, we get to that a little later. And then it says, let us make us a name. Sounds to me like arrogance and pride, doesn't it? Lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. Sounds to me like mankind in general under Nimrod thought that obeying God was a bad idea. But you see, it was a flagrant rejection of God's command to fill the earth. And then verse 5. I love verse 5. Verse 5 says, the Lord came down to see the city and the tower. Wow. Verse 5 reminds me of when my wife and I were raising our children. When things were getting out of control, I'd be calling down the stairs, "Don't make me come down there." Usually things quietened down and control was regained. I did say usually, didn't I? But not here. The Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men built. All I can say is, boy, were they in trouble. The rebellion had now gone way too far and required divine intervention. And folks, we met this before the flood, didn't we? God's patience had run out.